kind of like your appetizer for tonight. We want to get into the main course now, which is going to be your head arm choke. The head arm choke is a much higher percentage submission, but more so than that, it's actually a much more controlling position, first and foremost. So that's why we want to introduce the head arm choke to everyone tonight. It opens up a lot of attack opportunities, not only the submission itself, but it also opens up back attacks, and it opens up other submission opportunities as well. Like we saw with the Americana, it's very powerful, but as we mentioned, it can be kind of low percentage. It can be a little bit tricky, provided that you're not already bigger than your partner. If you're already bigger than your partner, just overpower their arms and there's your Americana. But, you know, we want jiu-jitsu that will work on the highest level against people bigger than us. So let's look at our head arm choke. We're gonna do the same thing where we start at the end with our finishing mechanics, and then we'll look at entries into it. So coach is gonna be on his back. So also called a head arm triangle or an arm triangle. This is a triangle choke, right? So if we think back, we did a triangle choke a couple months ago with our legs. We're doing a triangle choke just with our arms instead. So with that in mind, we need to create two different parts of a triangle that can occlude the arteries on the side of his neck and a backstop to prevent him from posturing out. Thankfully, the floor is going to be our backstop, so we got that taken care of. I'm going to demonstrate the actual finish, and then we're going to talk about the mechanics behind it. So that's your head arm triangle. Now, it looks really simple. It looks a little bit misleading. It's actually a little bit more in-depth than it appears. So what we're doing, and again, we're just starting with the, in this case, choking mechanics. I need to keep his shoulder internally rotated into the side of his neck, because triangle chokes work because their shoulder is occluding one artery, and my bicep, in this case, will be occluding the other artery. So I want to keep his shoulder against the side of his neck, and I want my ear as close to his ear as possible. My arm will also be underneath his neck with my bicep as close to the side of his neck as possible. You're going to hear that a lot. I need to keep everything as tight and as close as possible. So I slide my arm under, and I create some adjustments as I need to. I keep my ear as close to his as possible. For right now, I want you guys to demonstrate a proof of concept that you can submit someone without needing to connect your hands together. So just like we would do with a triangle choke, you're gonna submit them without actually touching, without actually using your hands, okay? Now, we have one side of the triangle, your bicep. That's pretty easy to think about. I'm just gonna basically squeeze that side of his neck. But what about this shoulder? I need to create internal rotation on this shoulder, and I don't want this to be a neck crank. If I just take his head and just start squeezing on it, it's gonna hurt his neck. So what I need to do is once I'm here, I'm gonna start turning my chest towards the shoulder that's closest to me. As I turn my chest into that shoulder, I'm gonna keep regulated tension on the far side, so I'm essentially pushing him into my bicep. I wanna keep my head low, like I'm crawling underneath barbed wire from like a Vietnam movie or something. So I wanna stay nice and low here. Again, if I'm flat chested, this is gonna be mostly a neck crank because you're basically just gonna be tearing at the back of their neck. Once I'm here, notice, I'm completing the other side of the triangle using my chest. So I'm turning here as I squeeze. But don't do this. Don't pull your head up, because the head coming up means their arm comes out. So let's rewind. So you're just gonna start next to your partner, push their shoulder into their neck, slide your arm under, get some adjustment, push, push. See, I'm pushing his shoulder, pushing my arm in. And now, ear to ear, belly flat. I'm gonna start to squeeze my right elbow as I turn my chest into him. I'll ease up on the arm a little bit. So I'm turning my chest into him to complete the other side of this triangle. I need to make sure, though, that I keep my ear and my head as close to the ground as possible so that he does not pull his arm out, okay? So don't look up at people and talk to them when you're trying to head arm choke another guy, all right? Keep your head down low. Here, rotate in. Once you're good with being able to do it with one arm, you can always connect your hands together however you need to and finish the same way. But again, demonstrate that you understand the concept behind how to finish a head arm triangle with a choke as opposed to just a neck crank. Any questions on this? Alrighty guys, let's go 1, 2. All right, any questions so far? So we have our choking mechanics for the actual submission. Now let's talk about entries to get there. When it comes to that head arm triangle, I was demonstrating this for a couple of groups. Your goal is to make the shape of a triangle. Every choke in jiu-jitsu makes the shape of a triangle. You name a choke, it makes a triangle. So when I'm doing this, look how my chest is flat. There's no triangle here if you look in between my arms. However, as I start to turn my chest, you see how now there's a triangle. So I'm using my chest to keep that shoulder internally rotated, which will make it more difficult for them to extract the arm and, of course, occlude the artery better. Let's talk about entries. Let's start from the mount, okay? Again, the mount's kind of like the most dominant position, so we'll start from here first. So if their arms are tight like this is kind of not the position to attack a head-arm triangle. We'll look at a better variation in a second, but if it is here, we kind of already have an answer to allow us to attack it, and that's the Americana, right? I can start to attack the Americana, which will prompt a reaction. Most people, when they're getting their arm pushed down, will have their other hand come over and rescue it. When that happens, I just slip down for my head-arm choke. So again, I'm here, I'm gonna start creating adjustments. I can use a Y block here with my hand to poke his elbow and bury my head nice and low. Now that I'm here, I'm not gonna finish it from the mount. I wanna use my body weight and gravity to finish, so I'm gonna dismount. I'm gonna use a shin circle with my right foot. I come over and I hook his hip. And now I'm gonna sink my hips down. Again, you already proved that you can do it without the hands, so go ahead and just connect your palms together, and now turn the chest in, and there's your head-arm choke from the mount. Now, another variation that we can do would be, of course, attacking and separating the arms, right? And that's gonna start us in the side mount position. So let's look at the mount variation one more time, and then we'll look at the side mount, which is your really, really high percentage option, and that's the main one that we wanna work on tonight. But again, we're here in the mount. Let's say they got tight arms. Again, we're gonna start to attack the Americana. They're almost always gonna reach and grab their hand because they don't wanna get the Americana. So when they do that, you can go to either arm, right? I can shove this here and go down, or I can reach the other way and go down. It's entirely up to you. You choose the side you go to. It doesn't really matter. But again, I'm attacking. When he's defending, I keep his arm pushed. I'll just keep this right here. And then I come down nice and low. Maybe not. Okay, from this position, I wanna make sure that I'm getting my head low. Remember, ear to ear, like I'm trying to, belly crawl underneath something. I start to push his shoulder, dig my arm in deeper as far as I need it. Now from this position, I'm gonna dismount. So I'm gonna use my shin circle, which we've looked at in a passing context. So same thing, I'm just bringing my shin over and hooking my toes. Now that I'm here, I can connect my hands, and I'm gonna melt my hips. Now you may notice I'm actually keeping my foot hooked here on his hip bone. The reason that we like to do this is so that their guard can't interfere with us, so they can't bring their legs back underneath. So again, you can add that detail in. Just keep your shin hooked here, and then flatten the other hip. And now again, guys, I turn my chest in, and there's your submission from the mount. Now let's talk about the side mount. This is the big one, guys. So starting from the side mount, I have inside position, so I am in between his arms and legs. I'm gonna start just like we did before when we attacked the mount. I'm gonna start to work his arm up above his head and use my fingers to grab it. Now look, I reinforce this with a Y block and bring my head underneath. Now, you can already see what's happening. Here's the head-arm choke right now. So at this point, you can connect your hands together if you'd like to, or you can use this hand to progressively hold his elbow up. You can reach over and try to block it, be preemptive if you need to, but keep his shoulder internally rotated. Start to slide your knee across like we did for the mount, and then just like we did before, shin circle, and you're gonna dismount. Now from here, chest in, and get your submission. Let's look at both those options one more time. Let's look at the mount variation. So I'm attacking the Americana, he defends. And then the side mount variation should be fairly familiar because we're doing the mount like we've talked about. We're taking the mount like we've looked at. Walk your fingertips up, separate his arm. Fingers in his armpit, duck your head under, and keep it reinforced. Slide to the mount, and then finish your head-arm choke on the other side. Again, the choking mechanics, that's why we practice that first. You already have a decent grasp of that. Now let's work on entries to get to that control position. Okay, guys? Any questions on this?
No, sir.
Yes?
When you're doing the fake on the Americana,
It's not a fake.
arm under, or they're defending it
Right.
against you,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't, if your bicep isn't close enough, is it cool to just grab it and
Yeah,
over?
absolutely. You can, generally the best bet is as long as my arm's under the head, I use my Y block to shove and drop. So I shove, drop, and I'm dropping my ear progressively lower and lower, so my head is the thing that's blocking their arm from retreating. Alrighty, guys. So let's work on this. Nice, strong control position of the head arm, and then finish. Let's go. 1, 2.